All on the bowling, kitty is my darling. All on the bowling, bowling hall.
I was sent this replay by Enioch in our clan, who is a big fan, I think it's fair to say, of the Akizuki. And he's joining me now because I thought it might be useful for us to have a chat about it while we're playing. So this is Enioch in his Akizuki. I should point out it's set up for AA build. And you do have another build, don't you?
Yes. Hi, StatsBlock. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm running two captains. I have two alternate builds. One is a gunship build, pretty much the usual heavy RPF focus, survivability focus, and stealth focus. And this is the alternate build. This is the AA build, where I've pretty much picked every single commander skill that is relevant for anti-aircraft performance and stuck it on the poor duck. That's
Unfortunately, there's no carrier in this match.
No, unfortunately, no.
But as we'll see, you make it work anyway.
Yeah, it's surprisingly effective, even if there is no carrier in the game, because a lot of AA skills also apply to gunship performance.
Sure.
And
So AFT and so on.
Yeah, especially given the heavy focus towards tier 10 matchmaking recently.
Mm-hmm.
Having that extra range and that extra DPM, for instance, from basic firing training, is very good.
So you're heading into the C cap here, and I noticed that you kind of, I can see you kind of debating what to do here, and then the cap flips in just a second, and I see you do a hard right, which I guess is you deciding, nah, not going in.
Yeah, that pretty much decides it for me. Although when running this build, I think I would have taken this turn anyway to get behind the island, because I need to sacrifice concealment. So that pretty much bumps up my spotting range to 6.8, which is not competitive against any destroyer.
And with the Japanese smoke, that basically means you can't contest caps effectively.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah. So the reason I'm hiding behind the island is A, so as not to get spotted. B, because I don't know where the enemy radar is yet. They have an Atlanta, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, and C, because I want to give my allies who are coming up to support, I want to give them time to get as close as possible. Because in any DD versus DD fight, it's rarely the actual destroyer DPM that decides the survivor.
Sure.
It's how many support ships you have available to help.
And I have to say, actually, in this match, your team here do not cluster up behind you, but they do come up behind you, and you do get pretty good support on the C cap.
Yes, the team did support a lot, which is always a good thing when you're in a destroyer. If they hadn't, I would have stayed behind the island and waited for any cruiser or battleship to show itself. Mm-hmm. If you don't get a support, you don't contest with this build. It's as simple as that.
So there's a cruiser probably sitting broadside. Yeah, he's definitely sitting broadside in that smoke we just saw him fire. And you've got some torpedoes heading towards that. So lesson number 1, kids. If you're in a cruiser and you're in smoke, it's a, as Jingles would say, torpedo magnet. And there we go. And I think you're about to get your first kill, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And what happens when you get your first kill, first blood in Yamamoto? With Yamamoto, you get some fireworks, and what's the skill?
You get 1 extra consumable. So you get an extra smoke, an extra boost, and an extra reload booster. Fantastic. And with this build, the smoke is the most important bit, I think.
Yeah, because you spend a lot of time sitting in smoke, spamming things with HE. Yeah. Okie dokie. So you've looks like you've just pushed into the cap now. So there's another destroyer, friendly destroyer, in the cap as well. And with that cruiser dead, you are actually now capping.
Yes. Again, I have the other destroyer to buffer for me. I would not have been this adventurous if he hadn't pushed with me. So thanks a lot. To the gallants, I think.
Yes, and it looks like the rest of the team's pushing in behind you fairly well. Although
Yes.
I note that the rest of the team on the other two caps is not maybe doing quite so well.
They are not, and I am keeping an eye on this because the worst thing that you can do at this point is push through C into the enemy spawn. I'm trying to keep an eye on what the other caps are doing, so if I need to, I can move to B.
You do see it all the time in randoms where the team goes heavy to one cap on one side and then pushes through it into the enemy spawn, and then you end up sitting on one cap, sort of spread across north and up and down.
You've covered both sides of the cap, and you've sacrificed the other two.
And then the other team have two caps and they get the points advantage. And I find it's very difficult as a player to stop that from happening. You know, you can either say in chat, "Please don't do that," or you can try and move forward yourself and try and prevent it.
Yeah, one thing that I've seen usually works is if you focus your crosshairs on a specific allied ship and press F5, you ask for help from him in particular.
Yeah.
So from them in particular, so they get the chat notification with their name,
and they actually feel needed.
Yeah, that actually, yes. They feel needed, and they tend to help you. Sometimes it doesn't. Most time it doesn't work, but
it's also quite satisfying when you say request support to a particular player and they say affirmative. You're like, yeah, that's great, because you know they've understood. Yeah, and it also breaks the language barrier as well, of course. Because you get it in the language that you want.
Europe.
Yeah. Okay, so everything pretty much over here is dead. There's one destroyer left, I think. Oh, and the Fiji. I forgot about the Fiji. I think you could have ended up with an extra kill here, but your shells didn't quite get there.
I'm moving. I was moving forward here. I wasn't expecting his smoke to run out this soon, so I was trying to push in. I was afraid that he would kill the Charles, as the Charles died right now, and I was trying to get close enough to his smoke to spot him firing for the rest of the team to kill. But it didn't matter. And right now I'm moving to B because we've lost B.
That's a good advanced tactic, actually. If you're in a destroyer and there's something sitting in smoke and there's nothing else around to spot you, if you stay quiet, don't fire, and then sneak up to the smoke, if they fire, then you'll spot them. It's quite an advanced destroyer tactic. Okay, so we're going to move into the B cap now. Your team, well, they're in mostly battleships there, so they're not going to be right behind you, but they are behind you.
But one thing how many ships has the enemy team lost right now? I'm sorry.
So they're down 2 cruisers and a battleship. They've got 3 destroyers left, which I guess is your concern right now.
It is my main concern, but right now I am in the enviable position of still having the entirety of my HP because I didn't rush into the cap early on. And the Akizuki really comes into its own late game if it has its hit points.
Sure.
Because at this point, hit points are a resource. You can spend them to cause damage. And I'm right now, I'm not afraid anymore to go looking for the destroyers because I know where the Atlanta is.
Yes.
She was in A, I think.
Yeah. And are you running Adrenaline Rush? I can't remember.
I am not running Adrenaline Rush.
That's
no, but
so you've got there's no advantage particularly to losing your health other than just tanking. No, right? Okay.
No. Exactly. I've got the flat rate of fire buff from basic firing training, but it doesn't help me to lose hit points in any other way than to ensure that the enemy ship's going to take some damage as well. At this point, I'm willing to trade health. And I'm willing to be spotted too. You'll see soon.
Yeah, sure. And I guess as the game sort of goes on, and it becomes more obvious that you're getting an advantage, which is not obvious at the moment at this point in the match. Yeah. You're more willing to take risks, basically.
Exactly.
So that was a bit of a potato Bismarck there. So he took most of your torpedoes.
Yeah, that was a battling, as Jingles was saying.
Absolutely. And so you switch your attention to this Colorado, and basically I think apart from one rogue destroyer down the bottom there, which has just popped up on the minimap, I think all the rest of the enemy team are around the A cap.
Yes. I am pretty much confident that the team can handle that solo destroyer. What I'm looking for is this. I'm looking for one fire on the Colorado, and I'm willing to spend some health in order to achieve this because I want to force him to damage con.
Yeah, and at that range, a Colorado is going to struggle to even hit you. And and I noticed that you're staying sideways to him.
Yes, this is by design. I know that I am, until recently. Okay, now I know that I'm being fired on. I'm being targeted by 3 ships.
And so you pop your smoke.
Recently, I was only being fired by the Colorado. So I was giving him broadside so as not to trigger his AP on. So essentially as to force overpens.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard you say it before that one of the worst things you can do is actually show your nose or your stern to a battleship, because the fuse will arm and you'll get a proper pen.
Yes, yeah. 16-inch shells. A full penetration from a 16-inch shell is 4,000 something HP. A single one of that is about a fifth of your health in an Akizuki.
Yeah.
You don't want to suffer any.
So you're on 3 kills here, and there's a tasty little destroyer that unfortunately has just disappeared into his smoke, but you're managing to get some hits on him still because he's not moving very fast.
Okay, I have no idea why that Haida stood still. The Haida has the creeping smoke.
Yes,
so
yeah, you're right.
He could have pushed me with Hydro, which is why I immediately focused him as soon as I saw his nose pointed at me.
I'll tell you what, though, it's possible that he didn't understand that he has creeping smoke, because I remember when I got the Huang Hei, it took me a while to figure it out.
Yeah,
so,
possibly. If he's new on the ship, yeah.
So this Nizer now makes a fatal mistake here. And
hi, this is Notza, yeah.
Beach is right in front of you, and there's a very handy Akizuki-sized gap in those torpedoes, I have to say.
This was pure luck. I did not... These are, I think, Gneisenau torps, and this is where I potatoed. I did not expect the Gneisenau torps to be able to reach me.
No.
They're not Haida torps because the Haida was pointing a nose at me.
Okay.
I don't think he had an angle, but yeah.
I think that there's it may have been there's another destroyer in there as well. I think in a minute we'll see that there's one of the other DDs is in there, so it may well have been another destroyer behind the Haida.
Possibly, yeah. Possibly, yes.
Okay, so you're now on 4 kills, and if you get 5 kills, a Kraken Unleashed with Yamamoto, something magical happens. Would you like to explain?
You get a huge... first of all, you get a huge buff to your rate of fire, both with guns and torpedoes. I'm not sure what the exact number is. I think 30%?
Something like that, I think so.
What this means for the Akizuki is you get sub 2-second reload on the guns. And what you also get is a heal. You start slowly healing back quite a lot of your HP.
And so wouldn't it be handy if a low health Haida popped up? Oh, look.
Yes.
And there's the fireworks, and there's the heal. And you are now, as you say in chat shortly, a minigun. Your reload is significantly faster, as this Amagi is about to find out to his dismay.
Yes, this is where IFHE on the Ikazuki comes into play.
Yeah.
What I really love about the... it's been recently buffed, and what you get essentially is the capability of penetrating the armor plating of the bow, the stern, the superstructure of all tier 8 and up battleships.
So just watching your shell hits there, you're getting very few shatters, mostly pens. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and you also get the ability to pretty much penetrate cruisers anywhere except their belt armor, which hugely buffs your HE DPM on this thing.
So you now have 6 kills. I also forgot to mention you have high caliber and Confederate as well. I wonder whether you will get this guy for your 7th kill. At that rate of fire, I don't think he stands any chance. And there we go, kill number 7. That's quite a comeback for the team. mostly engineered by you, I have to say.
Uh,
There's a destroyer on the other side of the map, but you're not going to get anywhere near him. So
no,
you've finished with
no.
421 main battery hits with 6 torpedo hits, 5 floodings, 7 kills, 3 solo caps, which viewers may not have noticed. You capped every single one of the caps, which will lead to some pretty good XP, as we'll see shortly. With First Blood, Confederate, High Caliber, and a Kraken Unleashed. That is quite an amazing performance and a fantastic demonstration of how to play the Aki or any gunboat, really. So well done.
Yeah. It was a very nice game, and it was an amazing feeling, as you can probably imagine. I also had the benefit of being top tier on this match.
Yes.
The Akizuki really... The new IFHE Akizuki is much more capable than it was before, even in higher tier battles. But if she is top tier, she can really dominate a game. It's more the ship that really performed well in this game, I think.
You're being very modest. There is an element of skill. I think a lot of players who try the Akizuki, and certainly this was my experience. If you don't have that set of skills that you need to be able to survive in what is essentially a little cruiser,
yes,
you're going to have a bad day, because you're not going to be able to get out of the way of things like you would do in some other destroyers. And certainly you need to realize that this is not, for example, a Kagero.
No, this is not a Kagero. This is not an American gunship. This is not a Russian gunship. This is, like you said, a small cruiser.
And so you have to play it commensurately with the fact that it is a small cruiser.
Yes, this is a destroyer that very much encourages conservative play. One of the reasons I immediately went for C, for instance, was not just the spawning positions. It was also the fact that C gives you a lot of islands to hug and play during the early game. In an open map, with the Akizuki, I would never get close to a cap to contest, to actively contest, before the 15th to 20th minute mark. You really need to play patiently on this map, on this ship.
Whereas if you were in, say, a Kagero or something, a Lo Yang, something like that, you might actually go for the B cap.
Go in and contest. Yes.
That's a very interesting difference between those playstyles. And I think if someone is struggling with the Akazuki, and I suppose when the extension of the line comes out, the following ones as well, I think if any players are struggling with that and are finding that they are dying very quickly, just pretend that you're in a cruiser, and I think you'll have a lot more success.
Exactly. When we started, I spoke of the two builds that I run. The one is the gunship, the pure gunship build, the in-your-face Daka Daka build. And then you've got this build that is more along the lines of cruiser build. And what you get, the AFT, the Advanced Firing Training skill, that bumps your range up to 15 kilometers. And I think that this is very beneficial for the ship in the early phases of the game, because you would not close into knife fighting range anyway. So you can use that 15-kilometer high arc catapult launcher style gun performance to affect the playing field early on.
Yeah, because if you're sitting in a destroyer that doesn't have that, then usually most stuff that's underneath a cap would be out of range to you.
Yes. The Akizuki is amazing in that she's one of the few destroyers that can actually force a Des Moines, for instance, to leave a cap. Because you have actually better catapult performance than the Des Moines. You can lob shells onto a Des Moines from a position where the Des Moines cannot return fire. You also get this nice benefit that any battleship that comes under fire at 15 kilometers from a destroyer with a rate of fire of the Akizuki immediately stops, retreats, or turns around. No battleship wants to push into a rain of HE. Even if you don't do a lot of damage, it's psychological. So you cannot be in the cap and contest it, but you can really affect how the enemy team is going to play around the cap where you are.
And so I suppose the ideal situation is the one that you had in that match, where you had another more stealthy destroyer
Yes.
with you who could do the capping.
Yeah, ideally you want a stealthy destroyer in front of you, or you want a radar cruiser or a Missouri, for instance, to be supporting you closely.
So, Enioch, thank you very much for sharing that replay with me and talking through it with me. That was really interesting, and hopefully will be a bit of a help and an inspiration to anyone who may be struggling with the Akizuki or wanting to get more out of it. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, StatsBloke.
And thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. You got lucky with the torpedoes at the end, didn't you? It was a perfect Aki-sized gap.